We're into March now, and the last time I was able to go away in the motorhome was October, when I went to Kendal in the Lake District. Since then, lockdown descended again, and we're booked to go to Northumberland in April. Hopefully that will happen, and if it does, between October and April is 6 months. So 6 months this thing will have been sat here gathering dust. Still, it is what it is. Been trying to keep myself busy with the motorhome, doing a few little jobs, and the next job on the horizon is to fit this. Now this is a 2000 watt pure sine wave inverter. Just in case you don't know what an inverter is, basically what it does, it takes 12 volts of DC current and converts it to 230 volts of AC current, so that you can plug things in that we normally use on the mains within limitations. Most of the time when we go away we are an electric hookup, but there are some places we like to go to where there is no electric and we go off grid, and then the things we miss are the coffee machine, the wife misses hair straighteners and hair dryer, and the toaster. Oh, and my laptop. My laptop is a bit of a beast, and it won't work off of 12 volts, not with any kind of adapter, so that needs electric hookup. A pure sine wave inverter is the one you need if you're going to use it on any sensitive equipment, and that includes charging my laptop. A cheaper version is the modified sine wave inverter, and instead of having a nice smooth wave, they tend to do it in right angles, and it's just a bit messy and it's not good for sensitive equipment. So generally pay a bit more and get the pure sine wave, which I think most of them are these days anyway. Between the inverter and the battery I am fitting a 200 amp circuit breaker, which will also act as a kill switch. Basically you switch this inverter on when you need to use it. When you're not using it, switch it off, and preferably disconnect it from the power source as well. So pressing the circuit breaker will kill that power, so it's not connected. So I've had this a couple of years, and I've never fitted it properly because, well, mostly because I didn't know where to put it. So it's always been floating loose. We've only got one leisure battery in this setup, and it does drain it, but we've never found that it's drained it to any great degree, and the solar panel on the roof will normally take care of it and top it up again. If push comes to shove, we may have to run the engine for 5 or 10 minutes just to top it back up. So the inverter comes with wires to connect it to, and I'll show you now where these wires go. So the reason that the wires go in the bin is because they are cheap, nasty ones from China, and they're not up to the job. So this is what I'm replacing the wires with, and this is good quality, CE and date marked. It's 40mm squared, and it's rated at 300 amps. And if you just look at the difference, you can see there the difference in thickness. And if you needed any more convincing, take a look at the lugs that connect the battery. So here's our coffee machine, which is looking slightly grubby, to be honest. It's been in the cupboard for 6 months, so I guess that's not surprising. These things tell you on the bottom usually what the wattage is, and this one is what the wattage is? Really? Yeah. What is the wattage? And on this one it's 1460. So a 2000 watt inverter will have a surge power of 4000 watts. So that's enough to handle the job. Where the leisure battery is, it's under the seat here. You want the inverter as close to the battery as possible because you want to use as little wire as possible. If you start using feet upon feet of wire between the inverter and the battery, then you're looking at a voltage drop, which is not ideal. So you can see there that I've attached the new cables directly to the battery terminals, and what I'll probably have to do is drill a couple of holes in this lid for the cables to come out. I shall put the circuit breaker probably on this wall here, and then the inverter itself will go on here, so that'll be tucked out of the way inside the storage compartment. That closes the circuit and that breaks it. It's got a plastic cover on here to help prevent accidental short circuits, and where the wires go in there are removable sleeves, so it will accommodate different sizes, different thicknesses of wire. Another little tip I will give you if you end up with one like mine, which I'll put the link in the description below, and incidentally I'll also put a link to where I got these cables from, because I was very impressed with their service. Not only did they make them to measure, so I've got the cables exactly the length that I wanted them to be, but they also cut it in half for me, because I don't think my wire cutters will be up to the job, so they cut it in half so that I can fit the kill switch. Anyway, the inverter. It has two outlets, one is continental and the other a UK model. I've taken off the dust cover because frankly that's just a nuisance and gets in the way all the time, but this plug socket was also the other way up, which when you go to put a plug in with the cable at the bottom, if this is bolted to a piece of wood, you can see that that will cause a problem. So I've removed the 4 screws, and very carefully so as not to stress the wires, I've inverted the outlet on the inverter, so that now I can come in from this end and plug things in without getting tangled up in the wires. And that just fits with the sleeve in place. Alright, that's the battery cover back in place. You can see the 2 holes are drilled here for the wires to pass through. There is my circuit breaker, and here is the inverter. The plug sockets on this side. So now when we close the circuit here, the light comes on, we have power, and then break the circuit, the power goes off. So all that remains is to try this in the real world. Let's just check the power. We have 12.7 on the leisure battery. Be interesting to see what that goes down to. Give it a chance to warm up. And the battery says after making 1 cup of coffee, 12.2. And just as a matter of interest, 5 minutes later the battery's back up to 12.5, and that's just on solar power, so it soon recovers. Coffee off grid. Cheers.